Welcome to the 5th episode of the Minibar podcast, where hospitality leaders come to chill and discuss business. This is Paulina from My Stay, your hospitality podcast bartender. Today on the menu is the talk with the founder and CEO of the Hotels Network, Juanjo Rodriguez. Juanjo is more than 15 years in startup environment. He's the founder of 3 companies with a broad expertise in digital, marketing services, and project management. Juanjo was also a mentor in Startup Bootcamp. Currently, his very successful company, the Hotels Network, has thousands of clients in more than 96 countries. And for your information, name Juanjo is an abbreviation of Juan and Jose. And now, take your favorite drink, relax, and get some inspiration by Juanjo. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast with Juanjo Rodriguez from the Hotels Network. So, hello, Juanjo.
Hello.
Hi there. I'll start straight away with the first question, which is why you and hospitality?
Mm-hmm. Well, a bit by chance, like so many other things in life. No, I am relatively new to hospitality myself. I started doing more, let's say, conventional work in consulting for telecom companies, and then I started my first company pretty early when I was in my 20s, and that was quite a few years ago. And I was running a marketing agency for quite a long time, and at some point I wanted to move back into more of a technology and product company instead of services, and that's why I came to explore ideas in travel. And I didn't start with this project per se at the beginning, but then we were trying ideas in the travel space, and then eventually we came to the Hotels Network. Having said that, my family has been quite involved in tourism in general, not travel per se, but in building and renting apartments. So and part of my family have been living for quite a long time in the Canary Islands, which is very, very tourism based. So the idea of tourists as clients is something very, very obvious to me.
Okay, very nice. And what did you study?
I did business administration.
Okay.
Very standard.
Very standard.
Yeah. Because I had no idea what I wanted to do when I was 18. So I figured, let's do something generic, that then I can find out what I want to do.
All right, cool. And what's the story behind the Hotels Network, the successful project?
So we were trying to figure out ways to innovate in the travel space. And when you start a company, in most cases, you want to do a B2C company. So you try to find out something that helps normal people in doing whatever it is. No? But then turns out that the B2B space is super interesting, and in many cases, much more interesting because it's much less developed and therefore competitive than the B2C one. Mm-hmm. So we were exploring ideas in B2C and how to make reservations easier for users and how they could compare options. So we had built some backend technology, and we were trying that with an app for users. But then what happened is I went to an event. Mm-hmm. There was a hoteliers event. Mm-hmm. And I was talking about something different. But by talking to them in the small talk in between the sessions, then I realized, you know what, this thing we are building is actually useful to these people more than it helps them more than it helps the end user directly. No? Mm-hmm. So that's how we combine both things, that stuff we have been working on, but focus on a different way to bring it to the market instead of directly through a new app or whatever, is through the websites of the hotels themselves. Mm-hmm. And that was the core idea of this, what we do now, which is basically help hotels grow their direct channel.
Okay. Well, then it brings me to introduce to listeners what the Hotels Network do.
Mm-hmm. So we are a platform to help a technology company, meaning that we offer products, not services, to help hotels get more direct bookings, so grow their direct channel. Mm-hmm. And it's basically 2 building blocks: learning on what are the metrics and analytics that you should focus on, and then personalize the booking experience with those learnings to help convince users that you are the best option they can get. So it's a combination of learning and applying those learnings to grow yourselves.
Okay. And so how that previous idea came to change it for the hotel. So what was it previously in general?
it was this idea of comparing that the travel space is very wide. So hotels, you go to Berlin, there are 500. In Paris, there's 1,500 hotels. So it's really hard to know which one is the one you want. And then once you decide that, through which platform you can book it. Because from a user perspective, you can do it in the hotel website or Booking or Expedia or any of the hundreds of places to book a hotel. Okay. So we were building that comparison technology. And then we started with the hotels by providing that type of use case, to check prices, so you can understand that the hotel is actually the best deal, and also personalized experience. So learning from what the OTAs were doing in personalizing the booking experience, but for every single hotel. One of the core ideas, and actually that's in the name too, is this idea of the hotels network that we may want to discuss, is that hotels and hotel brands are always much smaller than OTAs are. And therefore it's really hard for them to compete in two key elements, technology and marketing, because the OTAs will always have more resources to invest in both of those. So the challenge was, can we build technology which is as good as the one that OTAs are using, but that then you can actually buy because the price point is so low? Because you build once, but you offer it to many thousands of hotels. So that's why a company like ours only works on a scale if you have many customers, because the idea is that you build something which is very expensive to build, but then you are able to charge very little because you do it for many people.
This podcast is brought by MyStay, the contactless solution for check-in, check-out payments, e-keys, and service upsell for hotels, hostels, and all other travel accommodations. If you want to know tips, tricks, and absolute musts for the post-COVID hotel opening, connect with me on LinkedIn or send me an email. I will share with you our opening kit, which we put together with our partners, especially for you. It focuses on how to win back the trust of your guest and how to get back your revenue as soon as possible. In the opening kit, also await for you discounts and free product options. I know that you have been you've created a lot of companies before. I would say a lot, because it's more than two. And
exactly.
It's all around also marketing and things like that. So how all this helps you to build the hotels network?
So I typically joke that I have a success rate of 50%, because this is my fourth company and I have a one miss, one hit, one miss, one hit.
Okay.
So clearly the things that you learn along the way, both things that work and things that don't work, inform your next step. So whenever we were building the hotels network, there were many things that we didn't do because we already knew they were not useful. Okay. And I think it helps you focus your time on whatever is really important to get that project started and going. And don't. It's easy to get distracted. So if you have done it before, you already know that some of those things don't really matter. So you focus on the right ones, and then hopefully some of the techniques and things that you learn along the way are useful. And then a very obvious thing that the team that started the Hotels Network is a team of people that I had worked with already. And all of the core team of 5 people that we started, we are all here still. And that's because we had a previous history. So I think starting from scratch with a team that's completely new and you don't even know your co-founder, I think that's much harder.
Well, I asked in the previous podcast with Deso Mahoney about the founder relationships. I know it's sometimes hard. And you said number 5, which is more than magical. And you said since the beginning. So how did you divide the roles between a company and how?
So So in our case, it was a bit different because we were a founding team of 5 people, but that was the let's say more of a main founder because the other members of the team had more of a technical profile, and they were happy with a non-founder role, let's say. Which is interesting, no? For example, Mark, which is a technical co-founder, is someone who enjoys the technical part much more than the management one. So he's happy to work on this. And therefore, it's a bit different than a traditional one. And again, we have known each other for 10 years before we started this.
So not that complicated.
In our case, it's been very smooth, I have to say, I have literally 0 elements, and actually, you know what? It's so funny because it's so easy and easygoing that we never talk about it. Mm-hmm. You know? So that proves that it's not has never been a barrier.
Okay, never been an issue. And
mm-hmm.
Oh, well, good one.
Yeah.
Keep doing it.
Exactly.
It's very cool. And I've read that the Hotels Network have raised the Series B investment, and
mm-hmm.
it was, let's say, in a strange time, which was
mm-hmm.
last year, 2020. And like investors are a little bit skeptical about travel and travel industry in general. So how did it happen that you guys have been able to raise, let's say, Series B with such a great investment money?
So it's actually very interesting, and there's always a bit of luck in timing. Mm-hmm. And so we had a very efficient trajectory, meaning that we don't spend a lot of money to get to where we are. So we had very nice growth in a very efficient way, mm-hmm. and that was very attractive to investors. Mm-hmm. And then, so as a SaaS company, it was the numbers were very interesting, and that's why there were quite a few people interested. And then the travel hospitality space in particular, I think we've gone full circle now, because in some time when the pandemic started, there was this idea that no one will ever travel again and this will never recover. And if you look at the financial markets as a proxy to understand what people think about the future, mm-hmm. then everybody went down 50%. Mm-hmm. And almost every single travel company is more valued in the stock market today than it was before the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So Booking.com is plus 50%, Expedia is plus 40%, mm-hmm. Airbnb had a super successful IPO. So I think everyone is betting that travel, and in particular, digital travel, is going to be stronger than it was before. And I think it's a mixture of the two ideas. The travel and hospitality will eventually recover, but it will take some time. But again, when you are looking at the company, you're not looking for the next 6 months only. You're looking in the long term. Mm. And then everything digital will be much more powerful. Mm-hmm. So the digital side of hospitality is still it's a very interesting space. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And how many team members you currently have after the investment?
So I think we are about 115 people now.
Mm-hmm. All in Barcelona based?
No, actually, we have a super diverse team in a lot of locations. Okay. So we have our main headquarters in Barcelona, and about half of the team is based there. Mm-hmm. But then another half is based somewhere else. Mm-hmm. There's it has changed with the pandemic too, because 2 out of 3 people that came to the team in the last year are not based in a place where we have an office. Mm-hmm. And we already had a bunch of people that were either home base or in different places, and now it's even more. Mm-hmm. So we, apart from Barcelona, we have a team in Mexico City.
Oh, wow.
And because we cover all of Latin America and Americas from there. And then we also have a small team in Asia, out of Bangkok and Singapore.
Great.
The thing with travel spaces, is that you are either global or you don't matter. Mm. So from the beginning, we had clients and team members that were all over the place. Mm-hmm. And that is interesting when you try to get everyone together for a meeting. Mm-hmm. Then it's basically it's impossible to do it in working hours for everyone. So we end up choosing like Europe as a middle place, and then it's very, very late in Asia and very early in the Americas.
May I ask what was the size of the investment?
Yeah, we raised in this last round 10 million euros. Mm. From a new investor, Elia in France, and then from the investors we had previously in the company. So the ones who were there came along too, and then we got a new one. Mm-hmm. So now we have investment actually from mostly 4 funds in Spain, France, and the US. So that structure is also very international.
Okay, good. All right. Mm-hmm. Then I also have one question based on what you mentioned in Focusrite, that hoteliers are using our solution to personalize the end-to-end online experience and communicate with the guests when it matters the most. And my question is, so when it matters the most?
Yeah. So the way we look at this is there's from the user perspective, from the traveler, there's a cycle. No? You start thinking about where you want to travel to, then you book a place, then you go and stay there, and then you leave and start thinking about coming back to a different place. So there's like a circle that goes there. No? Most of our focus today is on the booking phase. That is one of the places that matters the most. It's not the only one, because obviously you want to be everywhere and you want to talk to them in all of the places, but the transaction happens when you are booking. So from a money-making perspective for hoteliers, that's where you're capturing the intention and the money from the user when they actually book with you. So that moment, everything that happens right before and after booking is very relevant. In our case, it's basically two things. One is understanding, so making sure that the user understands what you are, because the website of a hotel, that's what you have it for, to explain your hotel, to tell the story on why you're different than everybody else. And then that's more of a storytelling part. And then there's the very practical part that you want them to execute the booking. So you have to make them understand that you have the best price, the best options, that if you're looking for something special, that's where you edit. So when our product basically adds a layer on top of the website to help personalize the experience, so that the marketing team, the digital team from the hotel can change anything in real time. And then there's another element. In COVID times, when you had to tell things, so things were changing so fast, that are you open, are you closed, can you come, do you have safety measures, health measures, whatever. So that delivery of information was made through us a lot. The peak for usage of our product is the first week of the pandemic in Europe, because that's where everybody in the world more or less realized mid-March last year that this was going to be a huge problem. And then everybody went to the website and using us to change in real time what they were selling.
I know that you really care a lot about personalization. And so you say there is a layer on the website. So how do you personalize?
So the way we think about it is personalization is a word that is used in many different places. We aim for it to be very specific and practical. Hotels are the masters of personalization in a stay. So whenever you go to a hotel, the core idea of a hotel is that I want to make that special for you. That's personalization. What we are doing is to bring those ideas before you go to the hotel, actually to use that as a trigger to convince you that you have to come to the hotel and therefore have this personalized experience. So when we look at the website, we are looking at two elements. The first one is reducing friction, and the second one is making it more attractive. The first one is, if there is anything that is preventing you from booking, then we have to take it away. And there's two or three things there. For example, one is reviews. So everyone in travel wants to see reviews of destinations, hotels, etc. before they travel there. If I go to a hotel website and I have no idea about the reviews, then I have to go somewhere else, check it, and then come back. The thing is, if I leave to check my reviews in TripAdvisor or Booking or whatever, who knows if I'm coming back? Because all of those platforms don't care which hotel they sell, as long as they sell one. So you go there looking for Hotel X, and then suddenly you are looking at Hotel Y and C, and you even forgot where you were. So we want to make sure that if you want review information, that happens in your website directly in brand.com experience. And then the other element in friction is price. It's quite obvious that we want to book at the same price possible. If you book the same thing, why would you pay more in everything? If it's exactly the same thing. So we provide price transparency. We help compare prices across the platform so that you see hotel directly is X price, X rate, and then you see the different OTAs or different channels. And in general, hotels are offering the best deal, both in terms of price, that is the same or cheaper, but also in terms of the whole offer, meaning you get some perks and some elements that you don't get through OTAs. So by making that obvious that here is a place, you don't have to go yourself and check all of the different channels. That's those two elements are the core elements for this reducing friction part. And then the making it more attractive is the core idea about any marketing and sales. So you travel in order to have a great experience that is in your head. We want to help you imagine that that's what they're going to get when you get there. And that means having content of all kinds, pictures or text or whatever, running campaigns, so telling something, running promotions, and any combination of those. So you can add a message when you, for example, if there's an event, then you use it to promote it. If you have promotion for families, then you do that too. Mm-hmm. And personalization means that depending on who is coming to the website of the hotel, they see something different. Mm-hmm. So you can run 10 campaigns to different people, depending on what they are doing. So this is very, very behavior-based, mm-hmm. meaning I don't really care who you are or what your name is. I care what you are looking for. Mm-hmm. And you express that with your behavior in the website.
Okay.
So if you're saying you're looking for a room with kids, I can guess you're a family. And therefore, I can present you the content and the offers for families. And the same thing for if you are coming from a country that is different from mine, or you're using one particular language, or you want to book for tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So what you are doing is telling me your intent, and we can transform that intent in campaigns that you see. Mm-hmm. And you can run many. The problem with a lot of the things online is that the websites are trying to tell you too many things, mm-hmm. and then you don't pay attention to any.
Yeah.
Through our system, you have the 10 things, but you only tell one to each person or two. And then so the potential impact of those things is much higher.
Cool. Very cool. Well, I know that this year you have launched a new product. It's called the Bench Direct. And within, let's say, 3-4 months, you've been able to get to 10,000 hotels onboarded. Mm-hmm. Congratulations for that.
Thank you.
Amazing. And the question is, so that forever free tool, mm-hmm. what does it do and what's the idea behind it?
So basically what we have done is to add a new word, benchmark, to our original keyword, personalization. Mm-hmm. No?
Yeah.
And that's the approach I was talking about before. You learn through benchmarking, you apply through personalization. Mm-hmm. The idea of benchmarking is something I've been very interested on since forever, because in my first job is something I have to do for our clients. So has always been in the back of my mind. When you are a hotel, mm-hmm. it's really hard to know how well you are performing, mm-hmm. because you don't know what the other hotels are doing. So benchmark basically tells you, since our expertise is the direct channel, mm-hmm. our benchmark product, Bench Direct, gives you the metrics of your direct channel compared to everyone else, mm-hmm. to your destination, to the World Wide World, to your brand, etc. So you can track online e-commerce metrics like conversion rates, revenue per user, future demand, mm-hmm. user profile, rates and disparities, etc. You can see the ones you have, and then right next to it, you can see the ones from the other hotels. It's basically taking the information you see for yourself in Google Analytics, etc., and your booking engine, but then being able to understand the Google Analytics and booking engines and website metrics of everyone else. Mm-hmm. And we always do it in an anonymized way. Mm-hmm. So you never actually see specific hotels. That's one of the core elements. We don't want you to so much compete as to learn from others, right?
Well, and if you're saying this, aren't the hotels sometimes skeptical about sharing their data to, they want to be very competitive, or this is the competitive space, and they don't want to share some information with the mm-hmm. hotel around the corner. So what are the opinions about the Bench Direct with hotels?
Well, that's why this idea of presenting the information is always non-personal. So we never identify users, because what you are tracking is the hotel, not the users. And then always anonymized and grouped. So you always, when we present your information, we compare that with different competitive sets. And a competitive set is a group of hotels which on average, or the median or whatever applies, have some metric. Say your conversion rate is 2.4, the destination competitive set is 3.1%. Mm-hmm. So you never know exactly who is there. And we do that on purpose. So when you share your data, no one is going to see it directly. Mm-hmm. What they are going to see is a grouped analysis of that information. Mm-hmm. So you are safe. No one can never copy what you are doing, and no one can know exactly how we are doing. But you can learn, because when you look at if you say you have 15 hotels that are 4 stars in your destination, then you can see how they are behaving in general without knowing who is who. And that informs how well you're performing. Basically, there's two simple ideas. One is when you are losing revenue directly because you are below average. So let's say that everyone is at 3%, you are at 2%. What are you doing? Because something is wrong here, right? So just by picking up speed and becoming as good as the average of the other ones, you stop losing that revenue. And then there's the even more potential. In any competitive set, there's always a median or average, but there's always the best performers. So can you become one of those best performers? So it tells you also what you can aspire to. And therefore, you may think you are fine with your revenue, but actually the potential you have is higher than what you thought. And that's the idea of a benchmark is, can I get close to that mark that defines what good is? By the way, even though for us, benchmarking is a very long-term project, but the idea of launching this in the pandemic is especially, and a bit by chance, interesting. Because now, in general, you can understand if what you are doing is good or bad based on trends. No? If every year we do that, this is better or worse. But now, basically, no one has any idea what's going on.
Oh, that's correct.
So understanding what is happening to everyone else in the industry is very useful to understand where you are and what your next moves should be.
Oh, that's very cool. What are your favorite metrics about the Bench Direct?
So in our company, there's one core metric, which is conversion rate. Because conversion rate involves everything else. All of the other stuff you're doing is in order to improve conversion rate, which is how many people you can convince. Then that's I would say the first one. Then we know that there's an interesting one, which is future demand. So understanding what users are looking for in the future. So for which dates they are doing that and what type of trip they want. Because then you can change something today in order to take advantage of what they want. So you can create a personalization campaign, for example, for those people that want the first week of the summer, let's say. And then the other very innovative thing that we are bringing on is the user analysis, meaning you don't only see the conversion rate. You see the conversion rate for French families, or you see the conversion rate for solo travelers booking within a 3-day window. So it gets very specific. And therefore, you can change your revenue management strategy and your activities online because you drill down much more than just staying with a very generic idea. So if you see actually what I think differentiates as a company from many other hotel tech companies in a PMS or a booking engine or a channel or whatever, is that our main focus is the end user, the traveler. That's the only thing we care about, really. And if you look at everything from the user perspective, then you add a layer of information and thinking to every other product. That's why in anything we are doing, there's always the user analysis and the split. And again, always with this behavior approach, not so much the personal data approach. We literally don't care about your email or your name. We care that you are looking for this hotel in these dates with these people for that specific type of trip. And that's why you can adapt your offer to that.
That's very cool. Well, in eHotelier, you've mentioned that the hotel's network is now, with the Bench Direct, redefining the concept of competitive sets, right? And instead of purely competitive view, where the goal is to beat each other, is to pivot learning paradigm. And the objective is to learn together as the industry, which you already mentioned. And the question in here is, how do you're convincing the hotels to do that in general? So what was the main argument? I know that you've mentioned already some. And so how do you speak with those hoteliers in that competitive?
So what we're trying to do is, so when you are thinking traditional benchmarking, is, okay, I have this property in this city, and I want to check the 4 or 5 hotels around me that I compete with, right? And what I track is occupancy rates and prices. So how many rooms you sold at which price. That's it. No, it's 2 pieces of data. That gives you zero information or insight on how to improve it. You can know you are worse than the others, but what do you do to change it? You have no idea. Why? Because that gives you the picture of the end result, but you have no idea how you came to be there. What we are trying to do is to give you, let's say, a video of what's happening on a step-by-step process. If you come from the online world, as we do, everything in your mind is a funnel, right? So you have X people that do something, that then less do something, and then finally, eventually, someone buys, books a room, whatever that is. If you look at, that's a process. People are moving along funnel abroad. We do that. We give you the metrics on every step of that funnel, sliced by whatever metric you want. As I said, no, I want the conversion rate in the booking engine for French families. That level of information is super useful for hotels. That's why they become interested in this. And the core idea is, before you were trying to understand what they are doing in order to beat them, to win business from them, and therefore you only care about those 4 near you. What we are saying is, since the goal here is to improve the performance of your website, then you can learn from anyone, not only from the ones near you. So when we talk about competitive sets, we have what we call a destination concept, which is the ones that the closest to the traditional one. But then you have your own brand, so you can check really easily within the other hotels in your group. And you can check with the network in general. So one thing we do is we find hotels that are very similar to you everywhere in the world, and then we compare you to those two. Because the core idea here is, even though the hotels themselves are very different, their online sales are very similar. So when you look at how the websites sell hotels online, they are remarkably similar anywhere in the world. If you're in Bangkok or Barcelona, the website is basically the same. So we can help you understand how to make your website better. And it doesn't matter if the hotel is in one particular place or another. Actually, there's a couple of things like rates, which depend a lot on the location. But many of the other things are completely independent of the location. And that's what we do. No, we help you learn from any other similar hotel in the online process everywhere in the world. And then the last idea there is what we call the dynamic concept, meaning that the idea that every user compares you to the same set of hotels is obviously false, because you and me are different. If we are different in so many things, but when we look for a hotel in Paris, we look at the same set. That's obviously doesn't make any sense. So what the assumption is, different users, since they give value to different things, the priorities are different. When they compare hotels with each other, they not always compare the same 4 or 5. They may compare 3 or 15. They may compare in different locations, which is completely out of minds of almost everyone. For example, let's say you want to go to the Canary Islands. There's more than one island. It's very likely that you compare hotels in Tenerife with hotels in Lanzarote. But they will never look at each other for competitive information, because they will say, no, this is a different place. And the other thing is, for example, category. I look for 5 stars, and therefore my competition is only 5 stars. Clearly not true. Many people compare, for example, high-end 4 stars with 5 stars. The main point here is the idea of a concept is dynamic. It can change for every user, and it can change depending on the situation and type of trip. And we are aiming to help you understand that. It's not only how you can improve from someone else, but actually who you are in practice competing with, because that's what the users are doing. Again, always user-focused. It's the user who is telling us what's going on. Another way to look at what we are doing in general as a company is that a lot of the companies in the space are room-centric. So everything is around the room. It's room prices, price per room, etc. And we are user-centric. We don't care if a user goes to one particular room or the other. What we want is to make him happy, because if the user is happy, eventually he will give you his money.
Yeah, well, you tell us. That's our value mainly. That's correct. And what do you think that the personas that are visiting the website after COVID change, or do you see already some changes so far?
I think 95% will be the same. I'm quite skeptic on the idea that there's a new normal and people will change how they travel. I don't think that's true. Mm-hmm. I think the travel need is much more basic and ingrained in who we are, that is going to suddenly change because we had a few months where we couldn't travel. I think that's not logic. That is not something that we are thinking about, and therefore is impacting what we do as travelers. Obviously, in a tactical way, there will be quite a few differences in the short term, meaning what you are offering this summer, and then when business travel comes back, and what shape that takes. But in general, I think the personas will be exactly the same.
Good. Well, in my opinion, there are two main things that hotels should take care after the COVID, which is the direct bookings and the contactless access. So, what are your personal tips? What hotels should pay attention the most at their website or in general in their business after COVID?
So the contactless experience clearly became much more relevant. No? If there's one thing that changed, that's the one. You guys were around before COVID. So the need was there. It's not that COVID invented a need. What it did is accelerating something and making it obvious that you have to pay attention to that particular area. No? That same thing happened to direct bookings 5-7 years ago. At the beginning, everybody was happy to sell through OTAs, and at some point they realized that's not sustainable. I have to do direct bookings, right?
Yeah.
A similar thing happened to that. I think so. Since those ones became obvious and a must-have, then the question is, what else is going to be a must-have? So I think hotels already do a very good job of the in-stay experience. That's what they've been doing forever, no? The place where you can improve more is in the new stuff happening online, in a sense, because that's not natural. If you're a hotelier and you run a hotel and you have hundreds of people there working, then the last thing you care about is your website. You're much more worried about having everyone seated for breakfast properly, right? And for good reason, by the way. So the teams that work on the digital side of hotels are relatively small compared to the size of the hotel operation. The professionalization of those teams needs to happen. Those teams are doing a lot of things at the same time. They are very short on resources, and clearly, I think brands, hotels will see that the spending resources there will pay off clearly, because you will get better clients, better guests, and you will be able to treat them, and you will make more revenue because you will be able to find out what people really want to give to them. The core thing is you're learning from the people who come to you in order to adapt your offer.
I see. Very cool. And I'm asking everyone two last questions.
Okay.
The first one is can you share with our listeners some funny story from your hospitality career?
Yeah.
Any. It can be from meetings or within your team.
Yeah. I don't think this is especially funny about this, no. But one of when we started the company, I was living in San Francisco, and we had about half of the team was there and half was back in Europe. So we always had very strange hours meetings. So I've had quite a few meetings in airports, for example, with members of the team, because it was the easiest thing to do. And one of the key people in our team, in the first time we saw, and the only time we saw each other for like a year, was in an airport. So that we went especially there to see each other. And that's like the opposite of hospitality. Meeting in a hotel in an airport place is the opposite thing. And then, more than a funny story, for me the great thing about hospitality is that you are so close. So work is so close to pleasure. For example, I was just in an event in Mexico, and I did the event for 3 days. And then, since I was in Cancun, then I went to a resort for a couple of days of vacation in a client of ours, obviously. And that idea that that traveling and hospitality helps you combine this, I think it's very interesting for the future too. No? Because the idea that is family, work, and then once in a year to travel, that is the one thing that has been changing for quite some time and will be very different. And for me, I've been trying to do that for a long time, actually. This idea of being able to work while not in your home.
All right.
Yeah, actually, I'm just as an anecdote, but apart from hospitality, in a very marginal version of it, but one of the things I've been doing for a long time is home exchange. So I would travel, sharing my home with someone else and staying in their place for a lot of times with my family. And that is the same idea that you can live like you are someone else for a while.
That's very cool. Very cool. And last question, if someone would like to have a meeting and invite you for a drink, what is your favorite drink?
I would go for Spanish red wine.
Okay.
I come from a wineries area, so that's kind of dear to me.
Okay, and the favorite one would be?
So I would say the region that is very close to where I was born is called Toro, and that's a very deep red one. And there's quite a few brands that are in this thing. So if anyone was to try, I would. It's much less popular outside of Spain than Rioja, for example, of all those brands, but it's very popular within Spain, and now it's quite prestigious because apparently the soil has these things that many people appreciate.
I see. And
not that I am an expert at all. Huh? I'm just saying.
And what about the favorite cocktail?
Frankly, I'm I'm not too much of a cocktail person. I'm pretty average because I would like for a gin and tonic.
Oh, gin and tonic is good. It's good. Yeah. It's my favorite too.
Actually, just to finish with the anecdote, Spain became a gin and tonic country in the last 10, 15 years.
I don't believe that. I think that Czech Republic is also the one for that.
Really?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Very cool. So, Juanjo, thank you very much for accepting my invitation.
Thanks for having me.
And good luck with the Bench Direct and the hotels network.
Thanks, and same to you too.
Next drinks in the minibar will be served with Monica Helm, while talking about how you can work on your leadership skills or how you can create a positive and empowered work culture and keep a long-term motivation of your team members in the episode called How to Put Your People First. If you liked our Today Minibar podcast, don't forget to rate it and subscribe to the channel in your podcast application so you don't miss any new episode with inspirational hospitality professionals, their stories, and new ideas. Or if you want to get back the trust of your guest and your revenue as soon as possible, send me the message on the LinkedIn or by email, and I will share with you our opening kit. So until next time, guys!